Hello, my name is Jack the Jobber. The Royal Rumble is one of WWE's most beloved match stipulations. 30 wrestlers all trying to throw each other over the top rope for a title shot at WrestleMania. What could be better? Except it always hasn't been that simple. If you'd like a potted history of this match type, or maybe you're even a newer fan of wrestling who wants to learn about different eras you're unfamiliar with, or you just like pictures and words and YouTube and stuff, then this is the video for you. Quick disclaimer, there have been several Royal Rumbles held by WWE on house shows and on episodes of Raw and stuff. Some of them have had as little as 4 competitors. These are silly. We're talking about the classic Royal Rumble, pay-per-view or nothing. Except for the first one, which was a live TV special, not a pay-per-view, but whatever. Let's go. 1988. Invented by Pat Patterson as an evolution of the classic Battle Royal concept and trialed at a house show in October 1987, the first official Royal Rumble takes place in January 1988, featuring 20 men rather than the more now familiar 30 men. The first ever entrant is Bret Hart, and the first ever elimination is Jake Roberts on Butch Reed, and the lineup has a slightly mid-cardy feel. Yes, there are names like Jake Roberts, like The Ultimate Warrior and Tito Santana, but there's no Hulk Hogan or Andre or Savage or DiBiase, and so on. The final 3 sees the heels One Man Gang and Dino Bravo team up on babyface Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but the good guy overcomes the odds, last eliminating One Man Gang with a low bridge to win the Rumble. Also, the match doesn't even main event its own show, as it was followed by a tag team match between the Islanders and the Young Stallions. 1989. Now, here we go, the first 30-man Rumble and the first on pay-per-view. This match begins with tag partners Axe and Smash of the Demolition Tag Team entering at 1 and 2 and fighting each other regardless of their alliance. This is remembered as a bit of an iconic moment, but I think it makes them strategic idiots. Andre the Giant eliminates Jake Roberts, who then uses his pet snake to terrify Andre into eliminating himself in return. Hulk Hogan eliminates 9 men, including the Warlord, in just 2 seconds, a record that will stand for 20 years. But one of Hogan's eliminations is his BFF Randy Savage, leading to tension between the two that will eventually result in a full-blown breakup and major feud. Hogan himself is also eliminated, but sticks around at ringside like a dick and even adds to his elimination tally in the process. But with all the main eventers out of the match, the bout is actually won by the imposing Big John Studd, recently returned from a 2-year hiatus, now as a babyface, last eliminating former ally Ted DiBiase for the feel-good victory. 1990. Having bribed his way to the coveted number 30 spot the previous year, Ted DiBiase gets unlucky this time and draws number 1. Ooh. Ted does last 44 minutes, however, setting a new Iron Man or longevity record, but the real story of this match is Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. The pair briefly share the ring alone, and the crowd reaction is insane, leading to a clash between the company's 2 biggest babyfaces at WrestleMania 6 a couple of months later. Only Hogan survives until the end of the match though, last eliminating the final entrant Mr. Perfect, although rumours persist that Mr. Perfect was originally planned to win the match, only for the booking team to switch plans the weekend of the show. Doesn't work for me, brother. 1991. This is the first Rumble that really feels like a regression from the previous one, rather than building upon the formula. Hogan wins for the 2nd consecutive year, last eliminating Earthquake. Rick Martel breaks DiBiase's Iron Man record, and we get some interesting Rumble debuts like The Undertaker before he's eliminated by the Legion of Doom. But on the whole, I don't think it's the best. The match was also really all about lining up Hogan as the WrestleMania opponent for Sergeant Slaughter, who had defeated Ultimate Warrior for the title earlier in the night. Now, a title shot wasn't yet the official prize for winning the Rumble match, as it is these days, but in winning the Rumble, clearly Hogan was re-emphasized as the top babyface in the company. 1992. This one's remembered as one of the greatest Rumbles of all time, built around Ric Flair's mammoth hour-long stint from number 3 all the way to the end, winning not only the match, but also the vacant WWF Championship in the process. Flair's performance is backed up by the legendary Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary, who goes through all manner of emotions having backed Flair to win. And I think the most important part of this Rumble is the finish. With the final three of Hogan, Sid Justice and Flair, Sid eliminates the Hulkster, to quite a few cheers actually, which WWE would edit later on, attempting to portray Sid's elimination of Hogan as a villainous act, even though it was all within the rules of the match. Having been eliminated, Hogan then does something really quite heelish in hindsight, grabbing Sid from the outside and allowing the Nature Boy to make the final elimination and winning the gold. 1993. This Rumble is the first one in which the now traditional WrestleMania title shot was the explicit prize for winning the match. It also features one of the silliest finishes in Rumble history. Down to the final two against Yokozuna, Macho Man Randy Savage seems to misremember the actual rules of the match, going for a pinfall. The sumo wrestler kicks out so hard that Savage flies over the top rope and is eliminated, handing the match to Yokozuna. Other notable aspects of this bout include a new longevity record set by Bob Backlund, who lasts 1 hour and 1 minute from the number 2 spot, and also the on-screen debut of Giant Gonzalez, not an official entrant in the match, but still the reason for The Undertaker's elimination. The pair would of course go on to have not a brilliant match at WrestleMania. 1994. The one won by 2 people. As legend has it, with the company uncertain whether to make Lex Luger or Bret Hart the champion at WrestleMania, they decide to just have both men win the Rumble match, both eliminating each other simultaneously in the final 2. The crowd response after the bell clearly favours Bret, which allegedly becomes the key factor in Vince McMahon's decision to strap up the Hitman on the grandest stage of them all. Now this may seem like a complete one-off occurrence, but if you know your Rumble history, you'll know that something eerily similar would happen about a decade later, but totally by accident. More on that later. This match is also noteworthy for the performance of Diesel, notching 7 eliminations before he'd go on to become champion later on in the year. 1995. Historically considered one of the weaker Rumbles in history, 95 features a real lack of star power, with Shawn Michaels far and away the biggest star without much competition. This match clocks in at only 38 minutes, very, very short for a Royal Rumble, and even though it's longer than the inaugural edition, remember that the 88 version only featured 20 wrestlers. The intervals between entrances in this one are cut down to a rapid 1 minute, which really doesn't help the rushed feel of the bout. It at least has a unique structure. Shawn Michaels enters at number 1, the British Bulldog is number 2, and the pair of them last all the way until the end of the match. The finish is a unique one as well, although almost a disaster, as Bulldog thinks he's eliminated Shawn, who dangles from the ropes with one of his feet actually hitting the floor. But Shawn is still the planned winner, so he clambers back in and eliminates a celebrating Bulldog from behind, becoming the first man to win the Royal Rumble from number 1. And also becoming the very reason that WWE incessantly remind us ever since that both feet must touch the floor for an elimination to count. 1996. Michaels goes back to back, this time as a babyface, whereas in 95 he'd been a heel. Once again though, this isn't really the best Rumble in terms of star power, perhaps showing the slump that the company are still in at this point prior to the beginning of the Attitude Era. There are still a couple of notable entrants. Vader makes his in-ring debut, Jake the Snake Roberts makes his return, but it's really all about HBK, who last eliminates his former ally Diesel to book a title match against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12. 1997. This is the one where Stone Cold Steve Austin announces his arrival, entering at number 5, tying Hulk Hogan's elimination record of 10 set in 89 and winning the whole thing. It's not so straightforward though, as Austin is eliminated by Bret Hart, but sneaks back into the match with all the referees distracted. This bout also features several stars from the Mexican promotion AAA, including the legendary luchador Mil Mascaras, who quite weirdly decides to just eliminate himself from the action. Since the invention of the Rumble prize being a title match at WrestleMania, this one is the first occasion where it doesn't actually end up happening. That's because a messy road to WrestleMania in 1997 leads to the title match actually taking place between Sid and Undertaker, with Austin facing Bret Hart on the undercard with no belt on the line, but still a match considered one of the very best in Mania history. 1998. Second time in a row for Steve Austin, who wins the Rumble again, last eliminating The Rock, the man he'd go on, of course, to face 3 times at WrestleMania over the course of their careers. Austin's performance here isn't quite as impressive as in '97. He doesn't go as long in the match, entering relatively late at number 24, and he eliminates 7 people compared to the previous year's 10, although he does do all of this in front of Mike Tyson, I guess. However, the match is notable for a couple of other reasons. It's the Rumble where we famously see the 3 faces of Foley, i.e. Mick Foley entering the match 3 times as his 3 different alter egos, Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love. It's also the match where referee Jack Doan unfortunately sustains a legitimate concussion, caught in the crossfire of Phineas Godwin's elimination. 1999, aka the one that Vince Russo clearly had a big hand in. The Russo Rumble, if you will. This has a very serious claim to being the silliest Rumble of all time, for various reasons. First of all, the fact that the whole match is built around Austin at number 1 versus Vince McMahon at number 2, and we're not really encouraged to take any of the other entrants too seriously. Secondly, there's the fact that a lot of the Austin-Vince action takes place backstage away from the ring, and as a little side note, the Undertaker's ministry also abduct Mabel, again while the Rumble is going on. And finally, the fact that Vince McMahon actually wins, last eliminating Austin, thanks to a distraction from corporate champion Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, The Rock. By WrestleMania, things become, thankfully, a little bit more sensible, with Austin getting control of the title shot and dethroning the Brahma Bull. And just to return to the Rumble itself for a second, we mustn't forget that Chyna becomes the first ever woman to enter a men's Royal Rumble, so it was at least history-making in a good way amidst all the chaos. 2000. Now, the 2000 Royal Rumble event is more remembered for the iconic street fight between Triple H and Mick Foley on the undercard rather than the Rumble match itself. However, we do see several noteworthy things in that match, including a mid-match dance break from all 3 members of Too Cool, before Rikishi betrays his boys and throws them out. We also get run-ins from various non-entrants in the match, most notably the tag team of Kai and Tai, with Taka Michinoku sustaining a very legitimate injury after being carted over the top rope. Ouch. And finally, look, I've got to say it, justice for the Big Show, who should have been the match's rightful winner, as The Rock's feet hit the floor first during the final elimination, although this is kind of ignored in storyline. At least on the night itself, but this would actually be worked into the storyline with Big Show complaining, and then both men would end up in the main event of WrestleMania anyway, but it didn't really matter because Triple H retained the title regardless. It's all about the game and not the Rumble. That's how the saying goes. 2001. Along with 1992, 2001 is the Rumble most often cited as the very best of all time. The match has a great blend of chaos and comedy, the latter coming most notably via the celebrity entrant Drew Carey, who gets scared by Kane and eliminates himself from the action. It also features a surprise in the form of the returning Haku, making his first WWF appearance in almost a decade, and even more weirdly, just 1 week removed from his appearance on a WCW pay-per-view. The star of the show, however, is Kane, the Big Red Machine, breaking the previous elimination record with 11, and generally just being the match's primary antagonist. We also get a similar moment to the showdown in 1990 between Hogan and Warrior, except this time it's Steve Austin and The Rock who would again go on to headline WrestleMania a couple of months later. It's Austin who wins this Rumble, last eliminating Kane and breaking a record of his own, the total number of Rumble wins, with his 3rd victory, a tally that is still unmatched today, at the time of recording at least. 2002. This Rumble is all about Triple H, now a babyface, having recently returned from an injury that kept him on the shelf for over 7 months. The game wins the match, last eliminating Kurt Angle to advance to a WrestleMania showdown against Chris Jericho, who he would beat, of course, for the title. However, there are 2 other notable comebacks to mention. First of all, Goldust, who had been part of the dying days of WCW, and Mr. Perfect, making his first appearance in the WWF since 1996 and surviving all the way until the final 3. The other memorable moment in this match is the rookie Maven's shock elimination of The Undertaker, and Taker, doesn't take too kindly to this. 2003. Now 2003 is a real changing of the guard kind of Rumble, with several future stars making their first appearance in the match, none more notable than eventual winner Brock Lesnar. Lesnar last eliminates the veteran Undertaker to book a title match against Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, which he would of course then win after almost destroying himself attempting a shooting star press. Careful now. This Rumble also has a very unique opening, with number 2 entrant Chris Jericho actually revealed to be his ally Christian in disguise, allowing the real Jericho to jump number 1 entry Shawn Michaels from behind and eliminate him early on. Also, a very unfortunate moment occurs when Christopher Nowinski is accidentally concussed by Edge landing on his head. But although this would force Nowinski into a sad early retirement from wrestling, he would go on to conduct groundbreaking research into concussions. 2004. This is the one that WWE wishes never happened, understandably, as the story of this Rumble is a heroic match-winning performance all the way from the number 1 spot by Chris Benoit. Not only that, but in the process, Benoit even beats Bob Backlund's longevity record in the match as well. The final elimination is a unique one too, with the much smaller Benoit slowly levering Big Show over the top rope and sending him toppling to the floor, before of course going on to win the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania 20. And yes, this Rumble is mostly about the winning performance, but it also features Mick Foley wrestling his first match in 4 years and taking out Randy Orton and himself in the process. Nice one, Mick. 2005. The 2005 Rumble has perhaps the most surreal ending in the match's history, with John Cena and Batista both tumbling to the floor simultaneously, but very unlike Bret Hart and Lex Luger in '94, this one was a total accident. Vince McMahon comes storming down to the ring to set the record straight, only to tear both of his quads entering the ring and just adding to the general sense of surrealism. Finally, a period of sudden death overtime is announced and Cena is hoisted out of the ring by Batista, the planned winner all along. Both men would go on to win the 2 world titles at WrestleMania anyway. All of this drama and unintentional hilarity aside, the match is probably most remembered for Gene Snitsky's brutal elimination of Paul London, and for the brutal chopping of rookie Daniel Puder at the hands of Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Hardcore Holly. 2006. This, of course, is the Rey Mysterio Rumble, with the masked luchador going the distance in tribute to Eddie Guerrero, who had tragically passed away the previous year. Rey sets a new longevity record in the process, making it all the way from the number 2 spot to the finish of the match, where he eliminates not only number 1 entrant Triple H, but also number 30 entrant Randy Orton to book his ticket to WrestleMania, where of course he'd win the World Heavyweight title. This is a weird match though in terms of its card position. We've already seen Rumbles not main event their own show already, but this Rumble was topped by 2 other matches: John Cena's victory over Edge for the WWE title and Kurt Angle's successful defense of the World Heavyweight title against Mark Henry. And the reason for that match going on last was revealed after the final bell, with the Undertaker arriving to make the ring collapse with his spooky zombie powers. Ooh, Rey's win should have closed the show. 2007. Much is always made of the importance of entrance numbers in the Royal Rumble, but finally, at the 20th time of asking, 2007 sees somebody finally win from number 30. Should have been earlier, right? That wrestler is none other than The Undertaker, who gets the better of Shawn Michaels in a mini singles match at the end of the contest, thought by many to be the best final 2 in Rumble history. Taker will go on to win the World Heavyweight title from Batista at WrestleMania 23, protecting his undefeated streak in the process, of course. The 2007 Rumble also features the ECW brand for the very first time, represented by some bona fide legends of the name, including RVD, Tommy Dreamer, The Sandman, and Sabu. The latter even sets up a table on the outside during his entrance, only to inevitably be slammed through it himself by Kane for his elimination. 2008. Since Taker and HBK finished the previous Rumble, it only makes sense that they begin this one as entrants 1 and 2. Other memorable moments occur as well, first in the form of Hornswoggle emerging from under the ring in order to take part in the match, only to be saved from a beatdown by Finlay, never returning to the ring, despite not technically ever being eliminated. Did Hornswoggle win this Rumble? And secondly, we also see the participation of aging legends Jimmy Snuka and Roddy Piper. But the main thing the 2008 Rumble is remembered for is, of course, John Cena's unthinkable surprise arrival at number 30, returning from a torn pectoral muscle in ludicrously quick time to last eliminate Triple H and win the match. However, Cena would become the first Rumble winner since 2000 not to win big at WrestleMania, instead using his title shot early at the No Way Out pay-per-view and only defeating Randy Orton via disqualification. Interestingly, the Rumble winner wouldn't actually succeed at Mania again until 2012. 2009. Now, the Rumble is often touted as a place where it's every man for himself, but the 2009 edition really flies in the face of that logic. That's because Randy Orton scoops the win with considerable help from his lackeys Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. Triple H eliminates two of the heel trio in the final stages of the match, only for the Viper to strike and toss out his former stable leader. Orton would lose to Triple H though at WrestleMania, of course, because it's, as we've mentioned, it's all about the game. This Rumble also features a surprise one-off appearance from Rob Van Dam, who had left the company the previous summer and would end up in TNA just the following year. We also see history made in the form of Santino Marella finally breaking the Warlord's 20-year record for the fastest elimination, with Santino immediately being sent to the floor by Kane in just 1 second. 2010. For the second time in 3 years, the Royal Rumble is won by a superstar making an unannounced return from injury. In this case, it's the Rated R superstar Edge, who arrives at number 29 and last eliminates John Cena to swipe the win from under everybody else's nose. There's plenty more to pay attention to here as well though. CM Punk's elongated mid-match promo, for example, in which he preaches about his straight edge society and even unsuccessfully tries to convince Great Khali to join the group. We also see Beth Phoenix following in Chyna's footsteps by entering an otherwise all-male Rumble and even getting an elimination. She eliminates Khali by kissing him over the top rope. And of course, this is the site of the Ballad of Shawn Michaels, so desperate to earn a WrestleMania rematch against Undertaker that he even eliminates his best buddy Triple H, only to then be mercilessly eliminated by Batista himself. Heartbreak indeed. 2011. This Rumble stands as the second longest ever at the time of recording, with 40 entrants instead of the usual 30. This means, of course, WWE need a couple of surprise entrants to bolster the number, namely Booker T and Diesel, both having recently left rival promotion TNA. CM Punk again steals some of the limelight here with his antics, this time using a whole gang of cronies in the form of his new Nexus stablemates, before being ultimately undone by Big Match John Cena. By John Cena. Cena himself then accidentally eliminates Alex Riley far too early in the match, with Riley planned to be part of Cena's elimination later on. So what do? Well, Riley simply comes back to ringside for a distraction, allowing his mentor, The Miz, to cart Cena out from behind, setting up a title match at WrestleMania. The match almost features as well the biggest upset win in Rumble history, as Santino Marella ambushes apparent winner Alberto Del Rio mid-celebration, revealing that he was never actually eliminated. Del Rio quickly rectifies this, however, winning, at the time, the largest Rumble ever. 2012. Perhaps inspired by the very positive reaction given to Booker T and Diesel in the previous Rumble, this is the one with way too many surprise entrants, including all three members of the announce team, Booker T himself, Jerry Lawler, and even Michael Cole, who gets absolutely terrified by Karma, aka Awesome Kong, the next groundbreaking female entrant to enter the Men's Royal Rumble. The match also sees the likes of Mick Foley, Road Dogg, and ring announcer Ricardo Rodriguez all getting involved, but the clear favourite for the match is the recently returned Chris Jericho. Y2J was the heavy favourite heading in, so of course the match is won by Sheamus, who last eliminates Jericho following a back and forth final stretch. This somewhat divisive booking decision would lead to a far more universally hated one, as Sheamus would go on to capture the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania, beating the very beloved Daniel Bryan in just 18 seconds. 2013. This Rumble has a very strong case for being the most predictable of all time. With a WrestleMania rematch between Cena and The Rock looking very likely, and The Rock challenging CM Punk for the WWE title in the main event of this show, there are no prizes for predicting the Rumble winner. Yes, it's Big Match John who wins his second Rumble match, eliminating 4 men, including the runner-up Ryback, on his way to victory. This Rumble also has a few surprises, not quite as many as 2012, but one of them is the Godfather. There he is! He lasts 5 seconds. We also see the first ever NXT entrant, Bo Dallas, who lasts a very respectable 21 minutes, even getting the elimination of Wade Barrett. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. 2014. Here we get the first of 2 of the worst received Rumbles in WWE history. For similar reasons, really. The root of the problem here is Daniel Bryan, his monstrous popularity around this time, and WWE's apparent unwillingness to do anything about it. So much so that the show opens with Bryan losing a singles match to Bray Wyatt, thereby forfeiting his right to compete in the Rumble match. And needless to say, this doesn't go down well with the crowd. The Rumble itself sees CM Punk last close to 50 minutes, only to be eliminated by the already eliminated Corporate Kane. Punk would famously walk out of the company shortly after this match, returning almost a decade later. With Bryan out of contention, the Rumble is dominated by a member of the popular Shield stable, namely Roman Reigns, who breaks Kane's elimination record with 12 of his own. He makes it all the way to the final 2, where he loses to Batista, who had waltzed back into the company earlier in the week. The fans turned on Big Dave, who was supposed to be a babyface, so WWE called an almighty audible, making Dave a heel, inserting Daniel Bryan into the title picture and making WrestleMania 30 an all-timer, despite kind of almost messing it up. 2015. If you thought 2014 was bad, oh boy. The 2015 Rumble is arguably the least popular of all time. Roman may have become a crowd favourite over the course of the 2014 match, but here he is absolutely not. The Philadelphia crowd loudly rejecting WWE's very obvious next big babyface. Daniel Bryan's early elimination after a 10-minute stint really doesn't help matters, nor does the obvious attempt to get the crowd behind Roman by having heels Kane and The Big Show slowly, wearily dominate the closing stretches of the match, eliminating fan favourite after fan favourite. It is not riveting viewing. Roman's inevitable win comes with an assist from The Rock, but not even the surprise inclusion of a megastar like the Brahma Bull can get the crowd back on side. Once again though, somehow WWE were able to save the following WrestleMania, this time by having Seth Rollins cash in his Money in the Bank contract during Roman's title shot against Brock Lesnar. Job done. Just about. 2016. For the first time ever, the 2016 Rumble features a title defense in the match itself, with WWE Champion Roman Reigns even forced to enter at number 1. Yes, Ric Flair won the belt in '92, but he wasn't the champion going in. Nobody was. This really unique setup does little to quell the audience's hatred towards Roman, especially because he spends most of his time in the match recovering in the back after being put through an announce table, but not eliminated by the heel League of Nations stable. This Rumble also features probably one of the best surprise entrants ever, as AJ Styles, one of the biggest stars in World Wrestling to make his name outside of WWE, finally arrives in the company as the number 3 spot. The big winner though is evil authority figure Triple H, who enters at number 30, eliminating first Roman and then Dean Ambrose to win not only the WWE title, but his second Royal Rumble match, 14 years after the first. Anyway, Roman would win the belt back from Triple H at WrestleMania, and it didn't go down well. 2017. This is a very backloaded Rumble, with several of its biggest names appearing in the final 5 spots. Brock Lesnar is eliminated by Goldberg, setting up an eventual WrestleMania match between the two, while Undertaker is eliminated by Roman Reigns, setting up the WrestleMania main event between the two. Roman's arrival angers the crowd once again, this time because he had lost a title match to Kevin Owens earlier in the night, before seemingly breezing into the Rumble in the best position to win. The big dog doesn't pick up the victory, however, being the last man eliminated by the newest and most out-of-place member of the Wyatt family, Randy Orton. This sets off a very strange chain of events where Bray Wyatt wins the WWE title at Elimination Chamber, and then Randy gives up his title shot because he doesn't want to fight his ally. Then he changes his mind, betrays Wyatt, beats AJ Styles to reclaim his title shot, and wins at WrestleMania after all. Convoluted. The 2018 Men's Royal Rumble. Yes, 2018 is the first year in which we see a dedicated Women's Royal Rumble match, but that's the main event, so let's talk about the men's one first. This is a strong modern Rumble in my opinion, notably featuring a clash of past versus present in the final 6. Cena, Mysterio and Orton on one side, Roman, Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura on the other. And the future generation is also referenced in this match, with NXT stars Adam Cole and Andrade Almas showing up to the party, Andrade having only just defended his NXT title at the TakeOver event one night before. Nakamura becomes the first ever Japanese winner of the Rumble, second if you count Yokozuna, surviving a very strong 3 against John Cena and Roman Reigns to set up a Mania match against his old foe from New Japan Pro Wrestling, AJ Styles. More on that in a bit. The 2018 Women's Royal Rumble. The first ever Women's Rumble is a historic affair, marked by the return of several beloved stars of the past, including Lita at number 8 and Trish Stratus at number 30. It's Michelle McCool, though, who does the most damage, notching 5 eliminations despite not being a full-time member of the roster, while Sasha Banks is the Iron Woman of the match, lasting 54 minutes as the first ever number 1 entrant. Like the Men's Rumble, NXT is also represented here, this time by Kairi Sane and reigning champion Ember Moon, who, like Andrade, had only just defended her belt the night before. Another high-profile entrant is Nikki Bella, who not only eliminates her sister Brie, but makes it all the way to the final 2 against Asuka. And it's Asuka who ultimately wins the match, completing a Japanese clean sweep, although neither she nor Nakamura would win their title bouts at WrestleMania. MMA pioneer Ronda Rousey shows up after Asuka's win to kind of steal the spotlight, which leads to Ronda's pro wrestling debut at WrestleMania, teaming with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. The greatest Royal Rumble. Not a beloved entry in the Rumble canon, this one, but the first event of WWE's controversial partnership with Saudi Arabia. It would feature the largest Rumble match of all time, eclipsing the 40-man 2011 edition with a 50-man contest. The match is a strange one, featuring several wrestlers unfamiliar not only to the live crowd in Jeddah, but to the WWE audience as a whole, including untested NXT talents Babatunde and Dan Matha, and perhaps most infamously, the sumo wrestler Hiroki Sumi. A popular rumour suggests that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia had requested the presence of Yokozuna, quite unaware that he had passed away over 17 years prior. The match also features the most famous botch in Rumble history, with Titus O'Neil tripping on his way down the ramp and falling underneath the ring. Oh, Titus. In terms of records, 2 notable ones are smashed here if we choose to include them. Daniel Bryan lasting a record 1 hour 16 minutes from the number 1 spot, and eventual winner Braun Strowman eliminating a record 13 other competitors. Again, if we choose to include them. By winning the match, last eliminating fellow giant Big Cass, Strowman earned not only the impractically large Greatest Royal Rumble trophy, but a bespoke championship belt as well. Neither of these prizes proved to be of much consequence at all. The 2019 Women's Rumble. This match is all about a wrestler who wasn't even supposed to be an entrant at all, Becky Lynch, who around this time is just riding a wave of popularity as the most over wrestler in the entire company. After losing a title shot against Asuka at the start of the night, Becky storms into the arena in the middle of the Rumble and demands to replace an injured Lana. Road agent Fit Finlay reluctantly grants Becky permission, and she enters at number 28, surviving a heelish post-elimination attack from Nia Jax to last eliminate Charlotte Flair and punch her ticket to the first ever all-women's main event of WrestleMania. Now, a quite convoluted series of booking decisions, in my opinion, would see the match taken away from Becky, then given back to her in the form of a triple threat against Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey, which Becky would ultimately win to simultaneously hold the belts of both Raw and SmackDown. The 2019 Men's Rumble. Becky's popularity means that the men's version of the 2019 Rumble is far less remembered, but it does feature a couple of noteworthy moments. The number 2 entrant is former star of WWE, WCW and TNA, Jeff Jarrett, working behind the scenes at this time as a producer, although he doesn't last very long in the match, falling victim to fellow guitar enthusiast Elias. The coveted number 30 spot is originally supposed to be R-Truth, but he's attacked by Nia Jax, still very angry at failing to win the women's match, so she decides to just enter the men's as well. She only lasts a few minutes, but does eliminate Mustafa Ali in that time. The winner of the match is Seth Rollins, who eliminates Braun Strowman with a stomp on the apron to earn the very unenviable task of facing Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, although Seth goes on to win that too, so what am I talking about? The 2020 Women's Rumble. This match is dominated by 2 NXT stars, Bianca Belair in the first half and Shayna Baszler from number 30, both women racking up 8 eliminations each. We also see one of the more heartwarming spots in Rumble history, with Otis acting as a human crash mat to save the object of his affection, Mandy Rose, from elimination. Aww. Santina Marella makes a rather unpopular appearance, attracting criticism for WWE wasting an entrance spot on the alter ego of Santino. And another strange booking decision comes in the form of the winner, or rather what the winner goes on to do. Charlotte Flair wins the match, surviving the rampaging Shayna Baszler, and she chooses, for the first and only time in the history of the Rumble so far, to take a shot at the champion of the NXT brand. This would lead to Charlotte defeating the hugely promising Rhea Ripley, and while nobody wanted the empty arena WrestleMania that we got in 2020, it perhaps saves this title match from a very negative crowd reaction. The 2020 Men's Rumble. Like 2016, this bout sees the WWE Champion in the match itself and entering at number 1, although unlike Roman Reigns 4 years previously, the title isn't on the line here, and Brock Lesnar actually chooses to enter himself just because he's kind of bored. This results in a very uniquely structured match, where Lesnar spends the first half of it racking up 13 consecutive eliminations, thereby equaling Braun Strowman's record at the Greatest Royal Rumble, once again, if we're counting records from that match. Lesnar is eventually undone, however, by a low blow from Ricochet and a claymore from eventual winner Drew McIntyre, which sets up Drew's victory over Brock for the title at WrestleMania. But this isn't the only big story to emerge from the match, as the number 21 entrant turns out to be the seismic return of Edge, coming back from retirement-forcing injuries to one of the biggest reactions in Rumble history. He even lasts over 20 minutes, and he would have a lot more in the tank the following year. The 2021 Women's Rumble. This Rumble is where we see Bianca Belair's real time to shine, entering at number 3, lasting almost an hour, and, after a very engaging final showdown with Rhea Ripley, winning the match as well. Curiously, this is also a Rumble that features involvement from quite a few men on the roster, including R-Truth and several members of the 24/7 championship scene, remember that belt, and this leads to Alicia Fox actually winning and losing the belt mid-match. Carmella's sidekick Reginald also makes an appearance, temporarily saving her from elimination at one stage, but then she does get eliminated. Although Bianca's win is quite strange in front of the very slightly dystopian Thunderdome setup, the crowd would be back in some capacity by WrestleMania, where she would main event night 1 with a huge win over Sasha Banks. The 2021 Men's Rumble. This is the Rumble where, for the 3rd time ever, somebody wins as the number 1 entrant. That man is last year's shock return Edge, and as you'd expect, it's quite a convoluted path. He begins the match with former tag partner Randy Orton, but now the two of them are vicious rivals and end up brawling on the outside, where Randy takes a spot on the unyielding announce table. He ends up injured and is helped to the back. The rest of the match goes ahead largely as normal, with musician Bad Bunny getting involved to scupper the chances of Miz and John Morrison, leading to Bad Bunny's wrestling debut at WrestleMania. Another surprise is the return of Christian to reunite with Edge, and although he makes the final stages, it actually comes down to Edge and Seth Rollins, with the Rated R superstar coming out on top. Except it's not over yet, with Orton sneaking back in to ambush Edge, revealing that his injury was faked the whole time. But of course, Edge overcomes this to win his second ever Royal Rumble, all the way from number 1. At Mania, however, he would run into an even tougher obstacle, losing alongside Daniel Bryan in a triple threat against Roman Reigns, who was in unbeatable form around this time. The 2022 Women's Rumble. Both of the 2022 Rumbles share certain issues which make the event probably the worst received Rumble of the decade so far. Starting off with the women's match, which features a litany of surprise returns and Hall of Famers. The most significant surprise entry, though, is probably Mickie James, holder of the Impact Knockouts title at the time, and a sign of the strengthened relationships between the two promotions. Another unique feature of this match is the involvement of Charlotte Flair, one of the company's 2 women's champions at the time, who decided that she'd win the match and then just handpick her own WrestleMania opponent. Instead, her opponent ends up being forced upon her as Ronda Rousey returns for the first time since WrestleMania 35, last eliminating Charlotte and winning the match. Now, Charlotte would actually go on to win their title match at WrestleMania, but Ronda would gain revenge and the title at the following pay-per-view. The 2022 Men's Rumble. Like the Women's Rumble, the men's one is won by a wrestler viewed by quite a lot of the fan base as a bit of a part-timer, rather than the match being used to elevate a more deserving fan favourite lower down on the roster. In this case, it's Brock Lesnar, and weirdly, the result actually becomes telegraphed in the middle of the show. With Lesnar losing the WWE title to Bobby Lashley on the undercard, social media speculation begins in real time, theorizing that Brock will simply enter the Rumble and win that instead. And indeed he does, entering at number 30 to rapidly eliminate 5 opponents, including runner-up Drew McIntyre, to win the match. He'd then win back the WWE title at Elimination Chamber and have a unification match with Universal Champion Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, which he would lose. But Brock's involvement isn't the only reason this Rumble is disliked. It clocks in at just 50 minutes, and the finishing stretch definitely has a rushed feel, with the likes of hometown boy Randy Orton and surprise entry Shane McMahon lasting a matter of minutes. After the show, speculation would run wild about arguments backstage involving Shane, who is rumoured to have attempted to rebook the Rumble as more of a showcase of himself. Nobody seems to know the full story, but Shane was released from WWE shortly after this show, although he would be back by WrestleMania. The 2023 Men's Rumble. Neither Rumble match main events the 2023 show, which is headlined by Roman Reigns' victory over Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's subsequent babyface turn, breaking away from the bloodline. I mean, fair enough in this case, it was a huge storyline. The men's match features a mammoth performance from Gunther, lasting all the way from number 1 until the final 2, where he's eliminated by the winner, Cody Rhodes, who's making his first Rumble appearance since returning to WWE. Gunther's 1 hour 11-minute duration in the match breaks Rey Mysterio's longevity record in conventional Rumbles, although once again, Braun Strowman's time in the greatest Royal Rumble remains longer. Cody, of course, would go on to shockingly lose his title match against Roman Reigns, while this Rumble is perhaps also remembered for the often replayed double springboard collision spot between Logan Paul and Ricochet. The 2023 Women's Rumble. So in the men's match, we see Gunther almost win all the way from number 1, and in the women's version, it actually does happen. That woman is none other than Rhea Ripley, although she's pushed all the way by number 2, Liv Morgan, but Rhea is the one able to make history with an emphatic head scissors, eliminating Liv in the final 2 and becoming the latest of just 4 people ever to win a Royal Rumble match as the first entrant. Unlike Cody though, Rhea thankfully does pull off the big babyface win at Mania, defeating Charlotte Flair to gain a measure of revenge for her loss in 2020. The 2024 Women's Rumble. This Rumble sees Bayley set a new women's longevity record despite entering at number 3 rather than numbers 1 or 2, which were the numbers held by the previous record holders, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, the previous year. Naomi also turns in a long performance, but she falls victim to the debuting Jade Cargill, who looks like a threat to win the whole thing herself before being eliminated by final entrant Liv Morgan. But for the second year in a row, Liv comes so close without getting it done, finishing runner-up to Bayley, who grabs the win before breaking away from villainous stable Damage Control and defeating champion Io Sky at WrestleMania. The 2024 Men's Rumble. This match opens with brothers Jay and Jimmy Uso squaring off as the first 2 entrants in the match, before it really becomes a bit of a 2-horse race. That pairing is the previous year's winner, Cody Rhodes, and the returning CM Punk, taking part in his first televised WWE match since, quite fittingly, the 2014 Royal Rumble. But Punk sustains a legitimate injury when taking a move from Drew McIntyre, which would later lead to an intense feud between the two. But despite this, the Chicago native powers his way all the way to the final two, where he's eliminated by Cody. The American Nightmare then going on to survive a very chaotic road to WrestleMania before righting the wrongs of the previous year to defeat Roman Reigns for the gold. The 2025 Women's Rumble. Again, the women's longevity record falls, this time thanks to entrant number 3, Roxanne Perez, who survives all the way until the final two. She is joined by several fellow NXT stars, with WWE really using this match as a showcase of the next generation. However, it's won by one of the match's more seasoned veterans. Charlotte Flair becomes the first woman to win 2 Royal Rumbles, outlasting both the dominant Nia Jax and the very sneaky Roxanne Perez to snag another title shot at WrestleMania. However, this attempt would not be as successful as her last, instead losing to Tiffany Stratton after quite a legitimately bad-tempered feud between the two. And finally, the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble. This match seems to be all about the retiring John Cena, who's aiming to win his last ever Rumble and earn a shot at a record-breaking 17th world title at WrestleMania. And indeed, this would end up happening for Big Match John, but not by winning the Rumble, instead taking a far more surprising route by winning the Elimination Chamber, turning heel and screwing Cody Rhodes out of the gold on the grandest stage of them all. But back to the Rumble though, which sees Jey Uso last eliminate Cena, a big gut punch for members of the C Nation everywhere, but a glorious result for Yeeters everywhere. Yeet. Jey will go on to beat Gunther for the World Heavyweight title, but the Rumble isn't just remembered this time for its quite surprising winner. We also see celebrity streamer iShowSpeed make a very impromptu entrance in the match, only to be speared into oblivion by Bron Breakker. And we get the joyously received arrival of Joe Hendry. Say his name, and he appears. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you to everybody on my Patreon for supporting the channel as always. I've been Jack the Jobber, and if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, share, and subscribe, and all that sort of stuff. And with that, that is the story of every single Royal Rumble match so far.